consulting firm Deloitte recently published a rundown of how AI for work relationships could be the next big thing in your office. And so, what they mean by this is Deloitte says that AI can, quote, analyze human interactions during and after an event to generate personalized, confidential recommendations at an individual and organizational level to help improve human interactions at work. So, specifically, they actually highlight five different areas they think AI for work relationships will have a big impact. I'm going to quickly run through the five, and then I want to get your take on this. So, the first is emotion AI that can actually help a business leader practice emotional intelligence by running simulations of different types of conversations they might need to have with different workers who have different personality types. There's AI that can understand customers better by extracting insights from customer interaction data and actually provide better customer service by conducting real time sentiment analysis on different conversations you would have with customers. There's AI that is actually able to make it easier to recruit diverse workforces by enabling things like blind hiring and also evaluating sort of hard to assess soft skills, like communication and empathy. And then finally, there's AI that can foster more inclusive work environments by actually telling when people are taking over a conversation or talking too much or interjecting, and actually encourage other people who might have different communication styles or be a little quieter to contribute to a conversation. And then lastly, there's actually also AI that can figure out what they call informal networks within organizations. So AI technologies like text mining and natural language processing that leaders can use to analyze who in an organization is connected and what the nature is of those relationships. So you could actually find people within the organization who, regardless of kind of title or seniority, actually wield the most influence within certain teams, which could then be helpful for promoting certain initiatives or leadership goals. So, Paul, I wanted to kick this off by asking you, given these kind of developments that Deloitte is seeing, how do you see AI evolving in the workplace, especially for these types of social interactions?
I think it's a really smart report. I mean, the examples they give make a ton of sense. The impact of AI at a kind of a more human and behavioral level makes a lot of sense. Their subhead in this thing is AI can do more than make work better for humans. It can help make better humans for work.
Mm.
Um, and I think, it aligns with what we've always talked about of the idea of more intelligent, more human. You can build a more intelligent organization that uses AI and different components to drive efficiency and performance and make predictions and do all these interesting things. But in the process, you can become more human as an organization too. Now, a lot of times we talk about that in the context of as AI frees you up from doing the repetitive data driven things, you can focus on the things that are more uniquely human, empathy, strategy, creativity, relationship building, interpersonal communications, like things that are, really hard for the machine to necessarily do. Now, in this case, they're actually talking about the AI being there almost as like that digital twin, like we talked about a few episodes ago, and you're
Hmm.
practicing your messaging to your team in front of your AI. So if you imagine you're the CEO and you're going to give a big talk to the team about something difficult maybe today, and rather than just going in cold, you give the presentation to an AI on your computer that assesses it and recommends to change your tone or say this a little differently. Or the example they give in there is the email. You're about to send off an email and you're frustrated, and the AI is there at your side saying, okay, don't send this, like change the tone a little bit. Maybe soften this. Here might be a better approach to it. So it's more of that assistant that's there to help bring out the human side of you in a very odd way. Um, so overall, it's a very, I think for many organizations, a very aspirational article. Some of these use cases aren't things that a lot of middle market companies, for example, would be doing in the next 1 to 2 years. They're more longer term applications of AI that certainly will be infused into organizations. It just might take a while. Um, and then the one thing I wanted to call out, 'cause I know we'll kind of cover a couple other elements from this article, It does start off with something that's a bit misleading, in my opinion. And I just want, if you do go read the article, I want you to be aware you're not falling behind. It actually states in the second paragraph, while 91% of business leaders surveyed in 2022 said they have an enterprise wide AI strategy, they are typically using it for insights, process, whatever. So it's the 91% I want to call your attention to, because you could easily read that as a marketer or business leader and think, oh my gosh, we are so far behind the world. I had no idea that 91% of people had an AI wide, company wide AI strategy. Um, Sometimes, and this is more general guidance on any time you're reading a study, it's very important to understand the source of the data point. So they do end note this, but then you have to kind of dig into where the end note leads you to, and then you have to download the report to read the end notes of the end noted thing. And where I'm getting at is they did survey 2,600 global business leaders across 6 industries as part of their State of AI report, which maybe we'll talk a little bit more about next week, Mike, because it's a good report as well. And if you drill then into the methodology on page 47 of that report, it actually states that all participating companies have adopted AI technologies and are AI users.
Hmm.
It is actually a requirement to even take the survey that you're already adopting and using AI. So when they say 91% of business leaders, it's a little bit misleading. It is 91% of business leaders who are adopting and scaling AI say they have a strategy. So again, my main, that was a long way of saying, if you read this and you see that, do not feel like you are falling behind. Their own research then ends up going on and saying like 28% of people are at starter level, 22% are underachieving, 24% are still trying to figure this stuff out. So in their own report, of those 91% that are actually doing this, only 27% are what they would consider like transformers, the people who have actually figured this out. So I say that as again, a long way of saying really cool report, looks at some really fascinating use cases that are maybe outside of the realm that we often talk about, where it's really getting involved in the psychology of this stuff and helping, bring out the more human nature and things like that. Um, but it is probably more um, mid to long term applications for most people that would be, listening or thinking about this as a leader in a middle market or enterprise company.
Yeah, that's what jumped out to me is sort of this medium to long term thinking. And what I liked about these examples is though you might not be having to grapple with these specifically, say tomorrow, they do illustrate how drastically AI could change the workforce and the workplace in the next, say, 5 years. And I'm curious, how do you see what kind of challenges do you see business leaders potentially facing when this kind of technology starts seeping into the workplace? Like we already have pretty predominantly, I would say, at bigger enterprises, AI powered or at least AI assisted, screening for hiring candidates and the hiring process. I know in resume reviewing is pretty heavily infused these days with AI. How do you what should I be thinking about as a business leader if I'm trying to implement this type of socially focused and impactful AI?
The challenge is that most leaders don't understand the technology. So you like, let's say you're a director of HR or chief talent officer, whatever it may be. You're probably not an AI expert. I mean, there probably are some out there who have, really jumped in to figure this technology out. But many of the leaders in these different divisions of the company that we're talking about being impacted, from HR to finance to product to operations to, the CEO level, uh, many of those leaders are unaware or unprepared for not only the integration of AI, but the downstream effects of that integration. So like let's for example say that we use use AI in the HR process, whether it's upskilling, reskilling, professional development, hiring, things like that. There are effects that are caused by that action, and it could be fear of work. Example, like fear of AI replacing me as a worker, fear of not thinking that my skill set is even going to be relevant in this organization 1, 2, 3 years from now, or even relevant in my industry or my career path. And so I think the biggest challenge we all face in any industry, and again, whether it's marketing and sales service or it's outside into operations, product, and HR and finance, it's that the leaders who are going to have to make these decisions and integrate this technology may not understand the underlying technology that's enabling all this. So that gets into like they talk about emotion AI. Like explaining to a C-level person that AI can actually understand emotions and
Mm,
whether it's using like facial recognition or the tone of writing, actually get a sense of people's emotions, and you can actually use that data to evolve the way you manage. That's a really abstract thing. And it's a very hard thing for someone to accept who has built their career on instinct and education base and knowledge and experience and the things that made them the leaders they are, to accept that AI is going to change the way they lead and
mm,
in some cases do the thing they've always done better than they do. And I mean, you see, like, this is a really silly example maybe, but like look at the NFL or the NBA, like professional sports and the role, what they call analytics, but basically machine learning, what they're calling advanced analytics is actually, forms of AI. And like you have some teams like our Cleveland Browns who are all in, like they just analytics rules the day for the Browns, the decisions they make and everything. Then you have other teams where you have coaches and general managers who refuse to allow the AI to play a major role in the decisions they make.
mm,
They won't accept that maybe it's actually better at making predictions about what should be done and when. And if you carry that into a business and all aspects of it, it's really hard to accept that AI could potentially play a really valuable role in making all of these predictions and helping you. So I see the adoption challenges often being the people. Like
mm.
it's the tech is getting really good. It's going to keep getting better at an exponential pace. And I think over time, the lack of adoption is going to be more driven by people refusing to accept AI's abilities in these areas that they consider uniquely human.